Good day, everybody. Mike here. I want to show you guys a little something today with this attachment on this ASV here. Sometimes when I get on these jobs and I get going, I'm a little lacking in detail sometimes, and I'd like to show you a bit better run in this grapple over here because it's a really handy attachment. And sometimes, like I say, when I get going, I don't spend the time in detail to talk enough about stuff sometimes. So today I'm not doing much, and every time I shoot a video, of course, the wind starts pounding. So I'm going to do a little bit on this grapple for you guys. They're an awful handy attachment. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos and I've listened to these guys talking about pallet forks and grapples and everything else, but I can tell you from experience too that I've got both. Over here I've got a set of Woods pallet forks, and I've also got this Landpride Grapple, and this grapple has its purpose. So do pallet forks have their purpose, but this grapple is a really handy tool. And this grapple here was not designed for this ASV track loader. It's actually a BX grapple. It's a Landpride, as you can see, 54-inch grapple. It's from Landpride. It's for the BX series. I call them estate tractors by Kubota. And with this ASV, it's a smaller machine, so I don't want to compromise my lifting ability on this ASV, so I wanted a small, lightweight grapple, and I couldn't find one. Not what I was looking for. So I went to the Kubota dealer and we looked at Horst, Wallenstein, all those guys up here in Ontario, in the Mennonite country. They make a good quality product, and that's usually who I try and do business with because I've had good luck with them. And but this time their grapples were a little bit too heavy. They're heavy duty built. They were just, I just didn't want them. They were too heavy. And then I was at the dealer, and on a BX Kubota, he had this grapple, 54. And it's got your standard quick attach plate on it, standard across the industry. I thought, sweet, that's the grapple for me for my track loader. So I bought it. I think this grapple was about a little under 1,700 bucks Canadian, 1,600 bucks. Of course, you could probably get it in the States for $1,000 because we don't mind taking her in the hoop in Canada on pricing. We do on most things. But anyway, back to this grapple. It's a light grapple too. It's well built, but it's light. I think this grapple, it runs in and about 200 pounds. 190s and a 200 in and around there. I should have maybe checked the spec a little bit better, but I think it's about 200 pounds. And it's great. I like this Landpride 54-inch grapple. I've got other Landpride pieces of equipment here, attachments too, out of the States, and they make good stuff. They make really good stuff. I like Landpride stuff. Hey, I've never had an issue with Landpride stuff, and I like it. So this grapple here, what makes this grapple nice, and all grapples are not created equally. I'll tell you that right now. They're not created equally. This grapple here, it's built at a 2x3 hollow structural and 2-inch pipe. And what makes this grapple nice, I'll show you another thing here to have a look at when you're buying something like this grapple here. Get in on this. Right there. It's made out of AR400 steel, which is nice. If you're going to buy a grapple, man, make sure it's made out, or a portion of it where it needs to be is built from AR plate. AR plate is just a metallurgy of this metal here, abrasion resistant, rock weld at 400, whatever it is, and it's just harder and much more wear resistant than regular steel. It wears better when you really put her to the ground. It's just got better characteristics for wear resistance than mild steel, and that's what you want. So if you're buying a grapple or anything doing dirt work, you want it to be AR plate or equivalent, something that's going to take a lot of wear. Because here, let me angle this down just a touch. here's your wear points on a lot of this. These are your major wear points here that are coming in contact with all your work. Most of this is where all your work is done, in this area right here. Maybe not so much up here, but down here is where that AR plate shines. When you're ripping through the ground, or when you're clamping hard in these clamping areas, that's where you really want abrasion resistant steel. So if you're buying a grapple, just see if it's AR steel. You know, it might be some Chinesium, something that came over that's not. It might be mild steel, I don't know, but mild steel definitely does not have even close to the characteristics of AR plate. So if you're buying an implement, an attachment, and it's AR plate, you're probably doing good, and have a little look at it. This 54-inch grapple has twin cylinders, which is nice. I like it. Twin cylinder. You got equilibrium on both sides for clamping pressure. I've seen them with, you know, one cylinder in the middle and stuff, and that's okay. I'm not saying I got the best grapple, but I'm just telling you what I bought and why I bought it. Twin cylinders. You got hydraulic pressure equally on both sides of this grapple. You know, so when you're coming in, you can really put the hammer down. And what else can I say about this? It's a standard quick plate, so you can put this on, you know, not just this machine, not just a BX, anything with a standard quick attach coupler on the front. It doesn't matter, anything, and it'll work. But now what I'm going to tell you about this grapple too, and here's something you got to look at. It's windy out, and I'm probably going to get some wind interference here until I get better video equipment. We'll just have to suffer with it a little bit. I'll get it closer. And I'm just starting, so I'm not the best video guy, but it'll come. One thing that this grapple is not, this is not a grapple made for cowboys. If you got a business and you got different operators on your equipment, this is probably may not be the grapple for you, because this grapple is lightweight, like I say, 200 pounds. It's not the most robust. You look in here, and I'm not saying it's sloppy, I'm just saying it needs to be taken care of, and it worked great. As long as you take care of it. I wouldn't want to put some teenager part-time summer student on this puppy and get him ramrodding in anything and just putting the old clamping force to this grapple. I wouldn't do it. You can bend this grapple up. I got one bent tine down here. I've had this for a few years now, this grapple, a couple years, and I've bent one AR tine on the bottom, and I do believe I got a big rock jammed in there when I clamped it, and it severely spread the I actually broke the weld on that. I spread it out with a rock. When I clamped, it got between the teeth. Hey, it broke the weld. That was my fault, and I lived and learned from that. So you got to take it easy with this guy. And if you watch my video on me picking up those logs on that land clearing job there, me personally, I always try and somewhat center my load with this grapple. I don't want excessive amounts of force on one side and the grapple being open this far on one side and maybe being closed this far. I don't want that torsional twist on this grapple. If you can get onto something, try and grab it square and reasonably well balanced, and you know what, you won't have an issue. And this grapple come with the whole system as you see it. But what I can't remember with this Landpride Grapple is if it came with the quick couplers for the hydraulics and flat face couplers. I don't know, so I can't say. Yeah, and one thing I added to this grapple too, and I've got it on a lot of my equipment, weld-on hooks. I always got a weld-on hook. I got it on my Kubota bucket over there. I got it on my pallet forks. I put this weld-on hook in the middle of this grapple because they're handy to have. Hey, you could tilt this grapple forward. You got a chain, you got a nylon sling, synthetic slings, whatever. You know, you can grab the Kubota, pick this grapple up and move it around with a chain, whatever, if you had to. It's just handy for lifting. Weld-on hooks are nice in your attachments too. So what else can I say about this grapple? I'll show you something else in this grapple, you guys. And they went a little cheap here, and so they did. You're not going to get everything with these. I'll show you right here. Have a look. Right there. Grease fitting. These are just standard bolts in there with a sleeve. That's your pivot point. That thing rocks in there. On each side, one there, one there. Those are your pivot points of this grapple. Well, I'm going to tell you something. As soon as I got this grapple home, I looked at it and I went, I don't like that. Any pivot point on anything that's pivoting, where you're working a machine that's pivoting, it better have a grease fitting. So I drilled and tapped these 1/8 NPT National Pipe Tap thread on there, and I put grease fittings on these pivot points. That's the only thing I've done to this grapple, and now you can grease it at both pivot points, so the thing's getting some lube. I mean, that's your major pivot. That's your only pivot point right there. Why not have a grease fitting? So I think Landpride should have put grease fittings on there, and they didn't, but I did. So anybody that ends up with a grapple or any piece of equipment, if it's got a pivot point on it, man, put some grease fittings on it. Grease is cheap, a whole lot cheaper than having to bore out, remachine, or put new sleeves on. Grease is cheap. In my world, grease is cheap, and do it. Get fittings on them if you can. I'm not telling you have to do anything, but I'm just recommending. Watch your pivot points on your equipment, and if it's not greased, try and get some grease to it. And what I'll do now, I'm going to fire this machine up. We'll open this thing up, and I'll show you, because I don't even know how wide it opens, to tell you the truth. I've never measured it, but we're about to find out. Up a little bit. All right, so that grapple is at maximum capacity in the open position, so there's not much getting out of it. So when you look in here, about 32 3/4 inches here, basically from tip to tip. This puppy's opening about 32 3/4 inches from here to here. So you got 32 inches in there, and you guys can see I bent this. Mind you, now this grapple's done quite a bit of work for me. I'm really happy with this grapple. I probably told you already, but it's not just a grapple. This isn't just something you pull up to a 6x6 and you grab, or a log and you grab straight on. This grapple does a lot of things. Not only can you grab and pick up logs and brush and everything else, but what you can do, where these grapples are nice, you can sink these AR teeth into the ground when you're up against a patch of brush or a small tree or anything. You watch where you got these teeth positioned, and you can get sometimes two teeth together, and you can get in the ground underneath a root ball, and you can pop. And I'm going to demo it and show you guys down here that this thing just isn't for carrying stuff. You sink these tines in the ground in brush like here. A lot of the, well, all of the brush here was pretty much cleaned out of here with this grapple. You sink these teeth in the ground and you just push. I can tell it's getting way too windy. Sink these in the ground and you just push these below a root ball, small tree if you're removing, whatever you want, and you can uproot with that mass slash boom on this skid steer. You can pop stuff right on the ground. See, it's kind of windy coming to the end of the video, but I want to pop this out for you guys, this little bit of brush right here, and just show you this grapple. way too windy, but I just thought I'd finish this video off and you guys had to look at that grapple. Okay, that's the end there. Until we meet again.